Are you a worship drummer who is just beginning to integrate click tracks into your worship set? Have you been talked to by your worship leader and said, hey, this is what we want to do? How do you feel about it? What do you think about it? Are you nervous about integrating click tracks into your worship set? If I'm talking to you, I want you to stay tuned and check out this video as we talk about it. Hey, I'm Cohen Rogers, and welcome back to Conversations with Cohen, where we will talk about everything involving worship, tech, production, all of that kind of stuff. Listen, we're so happy to have you click in today to join us for another video as we talk about integrating click tracks into your worship set. First, let's talk about the benefits. The benefits of having a click track in your worship set is it brings about a cohesive gathering of your team and band members to have you all locked into a central tempo. Even though it's not imperative that everybody has to be directly on it, but it does bring you together and has a central theme, allowing you to be able to flow freely without thinking about tempo constantly while you're trying to sing or play. It does add for an overall ease of presenting the worship moment. Next, we want to talk about consistency and timing. When playing with a click track, it instills consistency and timing. Listen, one of the biggest issues I think that we have when it comes to a worship band and a worship team coming together has to be the timing and phrasing of different things. And this click track helps to eliminate some of that, not all of it, but some of that, because you have a central theme that everybody can lock around and be moving at the same pace. Even though there are some ebbs and flows that you can have around this click track, it provides a guide that allows you to be centralized on a focus, and so that you're all moving at the same pace in the same direction. Next, I highly suggest that you as a worship drummer rehearse with this click track in your personal and your private time before coming together with the band and coming together with the entire team. Practice with this click track on your own. If your worship leader uses a platform like Planning Center or some sort of organizational platform where they can share this information with you, make sure that you get a hold of that track and you practice. There are some downloadables for all of the team. If you're familiar with Prime by Loop Community or Multitracks by multitracks.com, they allow for the team members to be able to download their apps and work with their apps to be able to practice. Use those things that you can practice with. If you're able to use it, make sure that you have the set list on your computer, so in your personal private time you can practice and get used to the clicks and the cues and the guides and how it's going to flow, whether it's fast or slow, or if you need to make it a double click or add subdivisions or things of that nature, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. But you need to know that ahead of time so that when you come together with the band and the team, you're locked in and you're ready to go. Nothing catches you by surprise. I just mentioned subdividing the click. When you enter into some slower tempoed worship songs, there is a large gap if you just use a quarter note click, and it will always help you by enhancing to add an 8th note or 16th note if it's available. I do know that multitracks.com with their app, Multitracks, you can add a 8th note and 16th note subdivision. Prime by Loop Community does not offer that feature. So one thing you can do with theirs, you can double the click. And so if you don't have the option to add an 8th note or 16th note subdivide, make sure you double the click, which fills in those gaps and it adds more feel to the track. So as the click is playing, you can have more of a consistency and not those long gaps that the quarter notes offer. Next is kind of a biggie. We're talking about choosing your click sounds. And you say, why is that a big deal as far as what it sounds like? Because by choosing the wrong click sounds for your environment, click can actually get lost in the shuffle, in your mix, in your inner mix. And then, that kind of keeps you all over the place. Me personally, we use the digital sound, which is a very high pitched, keen sound. We don't have any instruments or vocals in that frequency range, so it always cuts through the mix and allows for us to always be able to hear the click no matter what's going on. But they're different tones. Some are higher pitched, some are lower pitched. It's basically a preferential thing, but what works best for your team, I suggest that you sit down with the worship leader and your team and you guys figure out what works best for you, what cuts through the mix the best. And I would suggest whatever it is that cuts through that mix the best so that everybody hears it clearly, that's the one that you choose. Now, when approaching the click, I need you to do me a favor. Don't approach it as a click. Approach it as another member of the band. So when you set your mix for your personal in-ear, if you have the ability to do some stereo panning, I highly recommend that you do that. Even if you're not using the click, I still highly recommend that you do stereo panning. Spread out the instruments, spread out the vocals, and center that click right in the middle. That guarantees that you will always hear it and always know where it is. Now, in using the click, the key is to relax, not panic, not get tight and play. I have to be spot on this click. No, if you approach it as another musician in the band, the band ebbs and flows a little bit, but you always are centered around this tempo, right? Sometimes you play in front of it, sometimes you play behind it, sometimes you play right on it. It's the same with the click. You're going to move around it, whatever groove best suits the particular song that you're singing. Make sure that you approach the click the same way. Sometimes you're right on it, sometimes you play a little ahead of it, sometimes you play behind it, but it's all about the feel that is generated when playing that song. So be sure not to over amplify the fact of having to play on the click. So by adding these elements or approaching it with these elements and these thoughts in mind, adding a click track to your worship set should be a breeze. It just requires a little bit of practice, getting used to having that extra tone in your ear. And especially if you're using cues, if you don't have an MD, we don't currently have an MD, so we use the cues from the actual click tracks. It's something to get used to if you have not done this before, but I believe it's something that can be successful in adding an element of security to your worship, because now you have something that everybody can come together on, and it says this is the tempo, this is where we need to be, and we can all move around this thing freely as long as it does not interfere or hinder the worship service. And that's the whole goal, right? Is to not hinder the worship service. You want that thing to flow. So what better way to flow than not having to be so focused on making sure that you keep a specific tempo, because now you have a click track that you can fall back on. Now, use it as an addition. Don't make it a crutch. Listen, technology fails. You could be halfway through a track in the middle of worship and the whole system just go down. Please make sure that you can continue to maintain the tempo or some semblance of that tempo on your own. But one thing practicing with a click will do will help you lock in and be able to play more consistently and keep that timing more consistent, even if there's a click not there, because you get used to playing certain songs a certain way. It creates muscle memory for you, and it helps you develop as a musician and as a drummer to make sure that your team is in lockstep. So listen, I hope you guys were able to get some value out of this thing. If you were, please do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button, smash that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you're alerted anytime I post any new content. Let me know if you want more content like this. I plan on talking about how to integrate backing tracks as well. And I want to hear from you. What's your experiences with using click tracks? Or what's your experiences of using backing tracks? Was it easy for you? Was it a difficult process? Let me know in the comments comments. I love hearing from you guys. But listen, I got to get out of here. So you guys have an amazing week. And just in case your week is not so amazing, make sure it has an amazing you in it. Until we get together again, listen, y'all have an amazing week. I'm out.